Hey, how's everyone doing? Thanks for joining me again this time for week 9 or block 9 of our What's in Your Closet Sew Along, hosted by Pat Sloan at her website, ilovetomakequilts.com. This week's theme for the block is coats. Personally, I don't wear coats that often, if ever, and that's because I overheat really easily, even in the dead of winter. I do have a few very, very light jackets that most other people think I must be freezing in, but no, I'm joyfully warm. If you haven't done so already, jump over to Pat's website, download this week's free pattern, come back here, and I'll show you how I do it. Every other week, folks, we're going to start with all of the pieces cut out that we need to make this week's block. I've had a few questions asking me why I don't cut my fabric on camera, and that's because I'm not always doing a free pattern, and it's not up to me to give the sizing information away on the videos. With the Block Wednesdays, they are free. All you need to do is to go to Pat's website, ilovetomakequilts.com, and download them. When a pattern is a paid pattern, I can't give the sizing away, so it's just good practice for me to not do it in any instance, so that when I am doing a paid pattern of somebody else's, that I don't fall into the trap of giving sizing away. Looks like I cut one of my squares too close to an edge, so let me just pull in some fabric, get that cut, and we'll make a start. You will have noticed also, unlike the pattern, which indicates to use just dark and light fabric, I've got my dark, medium and light, being that the dark blue is my dark, the red is my medium, and the white is this cream fabric. So what I did as well was I'm going to do a chain of 6 in the dark fabric. I need 2 little chain blocks in the medium fabric, and I'm doing my half square triangles in the medium fabric. So we're going to take the 2 large squares of our medium fabric and our background fabric, which there was no change to cutting out, draw a diagonal line corner to corner on the back of our lighter fabric, join that right sides together with the other 2 squares, take that to the machine and stitch 1/4 inch on each side of the drawn line. Now that we've sewn our seam on either side of this drawn line, as you know, or you may not know, I like to give these a press first to set those seams and settle the stitches down into the fabric before cutting them in half along our drawn line. Obviously, I did not turn my iron on today, so let's correct that. After we've sliced them in half on our drawn line, we will press all of these towards the darker of the 2 fabrics. With those now pressed towards the dark side, we just need to trim these to our final measurement, and I do this 2 at a time. You've seen me do it many different ways, but my number 1 method is to do 2 at a time because I'm impatient and I like quick results, and this to me just cuts that down. You do, however, need to make sure that your seam in the middle there is nested very snugly, and sorry for my light glare at the top there. Then we just need to place our diagonal line from our ruler on that stitching line and make sure that we have enough fabric outside our trim down measurement on all 4 sides, and then we can trim these first 2 sides. We then rotate this block around very carefully, making sure to keep it nested. Place that diagonal line once again on your stitching line, and now you can place the required trim down measurement on those freshly cut sides and trim the final 2 sides. I'll get the other 2 done, and then we're just going to move on to making some 4 patches. Well, I'm back talking to you sooner than I thought. This is what happens when you record these videos in February and edit them in the middle of March. I was unable to comfortably get the required trim down measurement by having these together 2 at a time. So what I'm doing is going into the fallback position of trimming each one at a time. And that way I can be assured that I do have accurate triangles. It's not that each one didn't have enough of a excess to trim down. It was just that once they were nested, I couldn't see a way of getting both of them trimmed exactly with them nested together. So I had to separate them and do them separately. And that may happen to you at some stage as well. We're now going to take the 10 light squares that we cut at the smaller size of 3.5 inches and match those with our 10 dark fabric. If you're following the pattern, in my instance, I have 6 dark and 4 light. We're going to sew these in sets of 2 and then sew those sets of 2 into 4 patch units. All the while, we will press towards the darker of the 2 fabrics. We now have all of the pieces and parts we need for final block construction, so we just need to lay this out now as per our diagram, remembering that I am using the dark fabric as the chain that is going from the top right to the bottom left. If you are just using 1 light and 1 medium fabric, all of your squares, just place them where the darker squares are on the diagram in your pattern, or follow along what I'm doing here. This now goes together as a 9 patch, so we'll start by sewing all of our vertical seams and then our final horizontal seams. For pressing as we go along here, we are going to press towards the 4 patch units in all instances. We'll have a look at how we press when we get to those final 2 horizontal seams. You will have noticed there, because we pressed out towards our 4-patch units, that our 2 seams there on either side of our half square triangle did indeed nest. And for our horizontal seams, we're just going to pick a direction and press. In my instance, I'm pressing away from that center row, and I believe I do the same once I've got the next center seam sewn also, but we shall see. With this final seam now sewn, I do indeed also press this one away from the center row, and our block for this week is done. Thanks for joining me again this week, folks. I really love having you here, and I adore each and every one of you. If you haven't done so already, please be sure and subscribe to my channel and click that little bell icon so you'll be notified of all my upcoming releases. That's all for now. I'll see you all again next week. Bye for now.